My name's Reed Page. I'm Director of Gas Marketing Operations and BD for Summit Energy, regional natural gas marketing and trade shop headquartered out of downtown Salt Lake City. I myself am from Roosevelt, Utah, so I'm from right down the road. My wife is from Mazer. Actually, I'm from Neola. I just get used to saying I'm from Roosevelt. It's because everybody says, where the heck is Neola? I'm like, do you know where Roosevelt is? It's just up here. But and my wife is from Vernal, but actually it's Mazer. Here we go. Yes, all right. So Summit Energy's been around for like 25 years. We trade natural gas. We buy from producers. We help producers monetize their gas production. When it comes out of the well, ask yourself this question: who gets paid what and why and when? And that's kind of like peeling back the velvet curtain. In The Wizard of Oz, she was very disappointed by what she found, right? Because there's just this guy back. It might be disappointing, but because it's just us. But honestly, it's really, really interesting to me. So when Travis said, hey, would you be interested in talking? I said, yeah, but I want to talk about whatever I feel like talking about. And because we've been so inundated with inbounds from developers of data center projects, industrial microgrids, I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time in the weeds, way down in the rabbit hole on a whole bunch of interesting things. Cooling technologies, water consumption, power generation, behind the meter, on-site, various versions of power generation with natural gas, different heat rates, different efficiencies, just different technologies in general. So I thought this would be really fun because there's a lot of things that are just blasted out there on Bloomberg, lots of terminologies that are just, it's like, what is all this stuff? What is the difference? And I figured we would dig into it a little bit. A little bit of housekeeping, though. So this is the last one, guys. This is the very last one. This marathon is almost over. But this evening, Summit's hosting a reception at a bar of the open variety at the Gateway Saloon from 7 to 10. Everybody here is welcome to go hang out. I'll be there till 10 or maybe till midnight. We will see how the night progresses. But if you want to chat about any of this stuff or about gas or about a lot of the things that the panel this morning, we're talking about natural gas this morning, like I was like, man, I actually have some good answers for some of these good questions. But yeah, there's a lot to discuss. There's so much. And anyway, clearly I'm excited about this. All right, we're going to explain real quick, how does natural gas get to a site, an end user? Like, where is the burner tip? It starts out, it comes out of a hole in the ground. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for producing it. It gets compressed, gets processed, compressed, and pushed into an interstate pipeline. Tyler, thank you. Williams, Mountain West Pipeline. Very important for us out here to get our gas to where we want it to go. Also, CIG, WIC, that was mentioned. Other pipelines that carry gas to the east to other markets. So those interstate pipelines, we have a marketer in the middle, marketers and traders kind of pulling the levers again, like the Wizard of Oz, with a whole bunch of other marketers and traders and schedulers handling this transaction of natural gas at different points on the pipes. It delivers into a distribution system. It was mentioned in another slide deck earlier, I think it was Scott's, about LDC. That term means local distribution company. For us, it is Enbridge, formerly, Dominion, Questar, Mountain Fuels. But Enbridge now, for the majority of the state of Utah, except for a few towns who have their own LDCs, like Nephi, I guess Hilldale, and then just over the border, we have Rangeley, Pinedale. So those are LDCs. The LDCs distribute the gas. That's sort of the last mile. It steps down in pressure. It steps down in pressure again. It gets delivered to your homes, to your businesses, to power plants, to asphalt batch plants, to all kinds of stuff. So that's where the power plants, industrial end users, the commercial and industrial, the C&I customers that Summit has. We have like 750 plus meters throughout the state of Utah, a whole bunch more in surrounding states. And so my ops team handles the balancing of all of this. There's a big balancing act. We're always buying gas, selling gas. We're trying to match it up so that they're approximately the same number on a daily basis or monthly basis. So we're going to talk about microgrid real quick. What is a microgrid? I'm just going to read this one. This is the only one I'm going to do this on. But localized, self-contained electrical network that can operate independently of the larger utility to provide reliable power or connect to it for energy management. It includes distributed energy resources like solar generators. So Generac whole house generator turns your house into a microgrid, or like a Tesla wall. If you have a big battery in your garage, you have a solar panel on your roof, you can have a home that disconnects from the grid. So you're off grid, you are still operating, your refrigerator runs at the very least. And so you are isolated, you're in island mode. So you have your loads, your storage, all managed by a controller. If you don't have a controller, you don't have a battery, you don't have a microgrid. I have solar on top of my house in Lehigh where I live. I cannot isolate. I don't have the battery, I don't have the controller. But fortunately, Lehigh Power is super solid. All right, so here's just a diagram of an example of a microgrid. You see the Ultra Clean NG Gen. This is an image that came from my buddies at Enchanted Rock. They're a microgrid company, design, build, operate. They provide a lot of these systems in, I think, like 370 different places, mostly Texas and California. We collaborate on how to do these kinds of solutions in the state of Utah and surrounding states. Here's a home version. So you can see even an EV, I think it's the Ford Lightning that is touted as, hey, you can plug this into your house. If your house is set up in the right way, you can isolate and you can run all your stuff on the battery in your truck. That would be really cool. It gives you this sense of resiliency, right? So microgrid. So we have other terminology here. Island mode, off-grid. You've separated your little microgrid. You are now in island mode. Sometimes a lot of these big projects, everybody wants to start out in island mode because they can't get grid connected for 5 years because they can't get their substation build, their transformer lead times are completely insane, at least for the really, really big ones. Actually, pad mounts probably are still problematic, right? The smaller ones, right? Still sometimes problematic, no? For me it was, we ordered one. It was kind of a weird voltage though, so that was probably why. But so then there's grid connected, there's resiliency as a service and energy as a service. These are sort of new terminology that's coming out from groups like Enchanted Rock or VoltaGrid, lots and lots of others. Some of the guys here are providing services are basically microgrids for the oil field. Very cool stuff. Maybe while you're waiting for power to come, you're waiting for an interconnect with your load serving entity, right, on the power side. Your LSE, Moon Lake Electric, covers tons and tons of electrified oil field locations, right? I think that's why your load factor is so high, right? Probably lots and lots of industrial. You guys are probably like 80%, 70 plus. That's crazy. That's really cool. And that's a big reason why their rates are so low, I think. So yeah, now then we'll talk about reciprocating engines, or recips, which is just an easier way of saying the same thing. So lots of recips. There's a few big giant yellow ones out here you can take a look at if you haven't already. Take a look. That's Caterpillar yellow iron. That's really cool stuff. You're going to see a lot of those in a lot of big microgrid deployments over the next few years. How are we on time? I'm not talking fast enough, guys. We'll talk about, I'll show some pictures of these simple cycle gas turbines. So combined cycle battery energy storage system, or BESS. That one gets thrown around a lot, especially with big, grid scale solar systems. BESS helps flatten out their profile a little bit. But those are going to be deployed in a big way on a lot of these big systems, at least from what I am seeing and the conversations that I'm having. Solid oxide fuel cell, that's a good time. You'll see that one too. Again, another generation technology that's coming out. It's a lot more expensive per unit capacity, and then heat rates, hybrid systems. We're gonna sacrifice probably accuracy. Some of you technical guys are gonna be like, Reed, yeah, but that's not quite accurate. Well, we have to make sacrifices for accessibility here. And I'm usually the guy that's like, actually, and that's super annoying. I get that, but we're not gonna do that today. We're gonna make this easy. All right, the Jenbacher was mentioned earlier today by one of the vendors. This is a Jenbacher J620. You can see there's the engine on the right-hand side, right? That's actually driving the generator on the left-hand side. So these come from Austria, right? This is like 3.3 megawatts plate capacity, I think, runs on natural gas. I'm showing this because a whole bunch of these are being deployed right now at a big self-generating data center in West Jordan, Utah. Something like 180 megawatts plus. and they are being used to power a modern AI data center. Caterpillar has all their stuff out here. These are reciprocating engines. These are just a giant version of what's under the hood in my Sequoia. Bergens, Wärtsilä. What's cool about these, I guess one of the many things that are cool about these, you can pull the waste heat off of them. You can apply it to chillers. You can reutilize some of that heat that otherwise would be wasted to just do more things. And you get a lot more bang for your buck out of the energy and the fuel that you're consuming. Caterpillar can do that. Bergen can do that. Wärtsilä can do that. The lead times on a lot of these gen sets are much, much shorter than the big giant ones that we read about in articles that are saying, hey, we're 3 years out, we're 5 years out. Big giant H-frame aeroderivative, really big turbines. We'll see pictures of those. Lead times are crazy. But for a lot of these, and for these providers in particular, they have deliveries in less than 15 months on certain packages. They can roll out, I think Wärtsilä, they can roll out 100 to 160 megawatts in less than 24 months, and then they can put you on a delivery schedule and keep delivering every other month, right? Very cool stuff. There's more details. We'll skip them. So this is West Valley. This is a UMPA. This is a UMPA facility. These are simple cycle gas turbines. Imagine when you're looking out the window of the Delta airline flight to Denver. Like that engine, basically, take one of those, stick it inside a housing, feed it natural gas. Oversimplification, again. But it's roughly those. Those are turbines. You're injecting natural gas, you're burning with air, and you're spinning a generator. I think, what is this, 185 megawatt facility, 180, something like that at max, at plate capacity. I think that's the summertime. So yeah, I think I might have, yep, there you go. That's under the hood. This is like a GE7F, I don't know. So a jet engine, but fed with natural gas and turning a generator, making electricity. So this is PacifiCore. This is a combined cycle gas turbine plant because you have the one that we just saw, but you also are using the heat to produce steam and then run it through Rankine cycle, right? So it's Brayton cycle, Rankine cycle. You have two different types of cycles. I'm not testing you on this, so don't worry about it. But there's two different types of generation kind of happening at the same time at this place, and you get to squeeze a lot more energy out of the same fuel, ultimately. And so your efficiency is going to be better, and also you should be running it in a specific way, which is all the time, base load. You shouldn't be load following up and down probably with these, although some operators are out of necessity or a whole bunch of other weird reasons. So, but these are combined cycle, and these are the ones that, yes, crazy long lead times. The last one too, I guess we'll go back, also pretty long lead times on these ones for big ones. For the smaller ones, I think Caterpillar has another company called Solar. It's kind of an annoying name in my opinion because it's solar. It looks like solar turbines, and it's super confusing for most people, but Solar turbines, they produce these turbines that are like 5, 6 megawatt, 10 megawatt turbines, I think, and I think they spin them out pretty fast. I don't know what the lead times are, but yeah. So again, more expensive also, by the way, for the capacity on these. So a little bit more expensive on the CapEx, a lot more expensive on the CapEx for these. But there are trades in efficiency, in a whole list of different things that all have to be considered in the design of all these different facilities. And when somebody's going to build a 200 megawatt data center that is with a power plant on site, they're not going to be putting up, 2 giant turbines, because if one of those turbines goes down, you're completely hosed. You're going to lose half of everything. And so what we are seeing a lot more of is more of the smaller turbines. So more units at smaller individual unit capacities so that you can achieve like, hey, I need N turbines or N number of recips, and I need 2 extras. That's N plus 2 for reliability. Right, so if one goes down, you've still got an extra. One's always getting its oil changed. There's always one in the shop. But you have enough to cover yourself to a specific reliability metric. Right, so again, we're seeing more of that. When I mentioned the Jenbacher, there's like 70 of them. There's actually like 72. So they've chained them all up. There's a whole bunch. In case one fails, there's an extra, or there's 2 extras. There's always a few on the bench just warming it. Okay, this is the solid oxide fuel cell. These are the Bloom fuel cells and the energy server. There's actually a steam methane reformation reaction that happens at the beginning of these things. So you put natural gas in, it shreds the natural gas. Simplifying here. It splits the natural gas, it takes hydrogens off of it, it pipes the hydrogen through a fuel cell and mixes with oxygen, produces electricity, heat, water, and a bunch of CO2 flies off the front side. These are really cool because their emissions profile is like extremely, extremely, extremely low. However, per unit capacity, for every megawatt, these are extremely expensive. So, and I think their lead times are probably pretty good, but I wonder how many people are ordering them because they're insanely expensive. So I think different tools for different applications. You'll probably see a lot of these in small edge data centers that are just doing inference compute as opposed to large language model training, which the ginormous ones will be doing. Stargate in Abilene, Texas, stuff like that. Big 400, 800 gigawatt scale data centers in places like Millard County, if those ones come to fruition. Some of the stuff that's trying to be built in Juab County, also a couple projects in Iron County that I'm aware of, gigawatt scale. So there's a lot of stuff, but every tool, different tools for different applications. And this one, I actually do think we're going to see a bunch of these. I do, in Salt Lake Valley, where we're in serious non-attainment for a number of things. So there will be some this will all be economically driven, but I just wanted to run through this and just say, look, there's so many different things. There's a lot of nuance out there. I had a solar developer tell me, hey, Reed, I heard that lead times are 5 years, so I don't know why you think you're going to solve this with natural gas. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's a lot of detail here. There's a lot of detail, and normal people won't know the detail, so they don't know how to interpret the articles. Mainsprings, this is another pretty cool one. I don't have a ton of details on like lead times and costs and stuff. It's supposed to be very competitive with recips. But this is a linear generator. Lots of powered electronics, lots of very interesting stuff, super cool emissions profile. But yeah, again, for the nerds who want to look this stuff up, look it up. It's very cool. We're going to see some of this too, I think, inevitably. Someone's always out there trying interesting things. And then battery energy storage systems. So these are just huge battery banks of lithium-ion batteries for the most part. There's other chemistries, lithium iron phosphate, lots of different things. I think we're going to see a bunch of these rolled out in between the natural gas power plant on site, especially at some of these data centers who have load profiles that are super, super crazy. Like they'll be at 150 megawatts one moment, and they'll drop off 20 or 30 megawatts very, very quickly, like in seconds. What do you do when you have a ton of spinning mass and you can't just like slam the brakes on your Peterbilt, These systems are starting to be incorporated in designs in between the recips or in between the small, the smaller combustion turbines to take the brunt of the transient loads when those electricity demands are fluctuating on a second by second or a sub-second basis. I think that you will see a lot. One design sort of heuristic that I've heard very recently was whatever your designed capacity for natural gas is, call it 30% of that will be the battery capacity, like starting point, 2-hour duration. So it's like, oh man, okay, I'll put that in my for what it's worth department, and we'll go from there. So we'll keep going. But behind the meter, this is Nova. Yeah, this is Nova's data center out there in West Jordan. They're pretty much built now, and they're commissioning gen sets in the next couple months. Very interesting, and these guys are way ahead, just way, way, way ahead. Some real riverboat gambler, like YOLO. They really risked a lot in the way that they attacked this, and I think that it's paying off. It's getting very interesting. So we in Utah, we're the home of a lot of interesting stuff, and we continue to be the home of a lot of really interesting stuff. We will be. DC water consumption. So data center water consumption. I think that was brought up today too. Very interesting thing. Again, last thoughts while I only have 2 minutes left. No questions. Until afterwards. Everything has pivoted to direct-to-chip, DTC, direct-to-chip, closed-loop cooling, because the energy density of these chipsets are so crazy that we can't just go the old-fashioned, open loop evaporative cooling for the most part. There's a possibility of some kind of weird hybrid systems, I think. It was brought to my attention that a very dense cluster of these dry coolers, these economizers, are actually changing the ambient temperature of the area around the entire campus, like the entire data center. And so they're going to have to start taking that into consideration, because if you've made the whole place 110 degrees because you're trying to cool and everything sets, it's going to get messed up. So for the most part, though, data center water consumption is not going to be the way that it used to be. So lots and lots and lots of closed loop. And so I think I'm a little less worried about the data center itself and its consumptive use. So I think we need more power generation in Uinta County. I think there's an opportunity here for some really, really big stuff if we can navigate air quality. Or maybe we incorporate some other new stuff. As long as we're talking about wild ideas, right, and future stuff, then everything's on the table. I still think that there's a place for maybe pre-combustion, carbon capture, supercritical CO2 as a working fluid, modified Brayton cycle. Just really interesting new things, and we can do it here in Uinta County. We have the supply, we have the processing for the natural gas. We can spin back up, and eventually, if the economics dictate, we can make another 400,000 or 500,000 decatherms a day and get back to where we were in 2012. You guys are going to do it, yeah? And we will continue to see load growth in the Wasatch Front. Absolutely. We will absolutely see incredible load growth in the Wasatch Front. It's hard to prognosticate what that's going to look like, but it's going to be a lot. A lot of the ambitious sort of asks and requests for Rocky Mountain Power are probably duplicative or triplicate or quadruple. So it's really, really difficult to find out, what's real? Or is it just the same guy asking for power in 17 different places, just scattershot? It's difficult. So my team, we've had to figure out how to qualify. It's like, hey, are these guys real? That's always the question. Is anything real? Are these guys real? And are we just wasting our time with XYZ inbound? Asking about their thoughts on air quality and how they're going to tackle air quality is a really fun one, because if they just stare at you, then they haven't been doing their homework. They just haven't. So if they can tell you who their consultant is and what their thoughts are on non-attainment and emission reduction credit trading and banking, you're like, oh, these guys have spent some time in the weeds. So this might work. Maybe. So SB 132, alternate path for large load customers, while still holding ratepayers mostly harmless, hopefully completely harmless if possible. I don't know if that is possible. There's always externalities, but very interesting stuff, and it's opened us up. We'll see if any additional changes are made, right? We'll see. But this has opened us up. Utah is very open for business on the power generation side. We just now, I think there's still a lot to navigate. And yes, we have multiple self-gen, behind-the-meter data centers under development in Utah. I'm under an NDA with a ton of them, but there's a lot of activity. I do think that we're going to see multiple gigawatts here in the state of Utah. I don't know if we're going to be able to accomplish project gigawatt, and the doubling and stuff within the time frame that has been established. I don't know. We'll take a shot. We're going to try, and we'll keep making gas so we can make it happen. But this was all just to say we're deep in this, and it's really cool and very interesting. And some days it feels absolutely insane and impossible, but we get out of bed and we keep doing it anyway. Some of it's going to happen, and we'll be involved. So if anybody has more questions, wants to talk more deeply about this nerd stuff, or has projects, has ideas, is involved in something, needs some help on the natural gas logistics, it's me and my team. It's us. So again, Gateway Saloon, 7 o'clock. That's what really is important here. Everyone come hang out, make this a proper conference. Appreciate your time, everyone. Thanks for slogging it. Thanks for lasting to the very end of the marathon. And yeah, I'll be here. I'll be here all evening. You guys have a wonderful evening, and thanks for a good day, good day one of the conference. Thanks, Travis.